Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2021 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 3, episode 15. It's called Interludes and Examinations. So full spoilers for the episode as always. First thought I had at the start of this episode, because it opens with a really sad monologue with Ivanova talking about how everyone's stressed and times are bad, which was kind of weird actually, because it went into the opening title sequence and it was her again doing the normal opening title. So I was like, this just feels like it ran on. This is kind of weird. But anyway, otherwise it opens with them discussing the fact that the shadows are attacking random, smaller civilizations, right? And this is kind of a new thing that it's
in the open too. They're not hiding anymore.
And that was something that was first revealed at the end of the last episode. And I immediately had this thought. I'm like, did we talk about that in the last review? I don't know if we did.
I don't know if we did.
We may not have. We may not have brought that up. And Joe, the annoying part of this is that episode, that review, has not went public yet. And I've got a funny feeling that when it goes public on Monday, that there's going to be a bunch of comments saying, why didn't you talk about this thing? And the truth is we just forgot.
I have one complaint about the show.
Oh,
is that sometimes they can kind of overload some episodes. I just think that, obviously the writing is great and the acting from our main guys are great. I just think sometimes the show can be some storylines I think you can wait till the next one or deserve to have their own episode, and instead they're just dropped into these episodes that already have so much going on.
It's kind of a double-edged sword in some ways, because it can help make the episodes feel like a bigger deal and more exciting. And like, if you told me that in the first 10 minutes of this one was going to end with the death that we get by the end, I would have been shocked at that revelation.
Yeah, this feels like a season finale.
So it's a very big episode. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree that it's maybe a little overstuffed, but we have a big two-parter coming next, so I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, admittedly, forgetting to talk about the fact that the shadows are attacking people out in the open now, albeit the smaller civilizations rather than the big ones. Well, it's a shame we did forget to talk about it. Ultimately, it doesn't really change what we'd say about it by talking about it here at the start of this one, which is just that that's new. They're being more, courageous. Well, that's not the right word. That's too positive. They're being more, out in the open, right? So
they're mask off.
Yes. Like, if I struggle with my words today, right, I have been awake for an absurd amount of hours, so I'm just warning you now that if I blank on some random words, that is why. I'm doing my best. I'll try and keep the analysis on point, but I am warning you now. I am running with a half-empty tank at best. So, but cool, right? So you have this kind of new status quo that is now formed. We're in this war council room a lot in this episode, so that's something they established, and now we're using it. More so than the bridge even, which means, maybe we'll go back to the bridge enough and it won't feel that it'll be like mix and match, but at least in this episode it's like, man, there's no bridge boy because we're not in the bridge. He's over in the bridge. There's
the CNC.
Who's are we going to get like a war council chap,
a second bridge boy?
War council. What?
There you go.
What's the word?
There's the words.
What's the word begin with C that means person that isn't that really offensive, because that's the only one that's coming to mind. You could say chappy, but it's not really alliterated because it's the cha rather than the k.
Chap will work though.
War council chap.
Or Chad. Chad is a new thing.
How do I say Chad?
Okay.
I just refuse. I refuse, damn it. But anyway, so we're at the War Council and we're dealing with stuff. Sheridan's trying to convince some of the alien races to work together, right? Because we've seen numerous examples at this point in this show of neighboring worlds who are at war with each other, and there's one such pair in this episode, and one of them's been attacked by the shadows and the other isn't. And the one that isn't, honestly, it was giving me some very Tally from Mass Effect vibes. Didn't really look like her per se, but the fact that they had like a full mask on, and the sort of the sound of the voice was very Tally from Mass Effect. It wouldn't surprise me. Not that this is like, I'm sure there's other things that have done a similar idea. You could even argue that Darth Vader, in a sense, is even partially inspiration for this, and that it's just talking behind a mask with a bit of a respirator kind of sound, but with the woman's voice, it made me think of Tally. But so this alien says, no, we're not going to like help, our neighbors. And Sheridan's frustrated, and he asks why. He's like, well, because right now we're not being noticed, and maybe if we don't get involved, if we side with them, and
maybe
start
we're just
helping
not
them,
important enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Sheridan's right that eventually they're just going to be on the chopping block, just like everyone else is. But he can't convince them of that. So he goes,
and also they don't want to join the losing side.
Yeah, well, that's something that especially comes up with Delenn, because Delenn, it's the one person Sheridan goes to when he's feeling stressed and he needs advice. He goes to Delenn, and he mentions that that like if we could give them a win, like if we could prove to them that this is a winnable fight, and let's be honest here, like we can't take on those ships, we can't even start. We did defeat one, kind of, but it was a bit of a Hail Mary, and we can't necessarily pull that same trick off with every single shadow ship. It's not going to work. So what do? We need a victory. And Delenn's like, yeah, give them a victory. And he's like, what? That simple? Just like that? Yeah, you'll figure it. And she sort of like caresses his arm at this point as she's leaving. He's like,
I saw that.
Yeah, I figured you would notice that detail.
Ew. Anyway, I was thinking that obviously I love Delenn, but this was kind of a cop-out answer for her. Like, she's also an ambassador to her planet, and she's part of this not Grey Council, but like this war council that they have. Like, why not just bounce ideas off each other till you figure something out, instead of be like, you'll think of something, and then walk away all sultry.
I think,
and then of course he immediately does, because that's what the writing necessitates. But I just, come on, like, you can start brainstorming ideas, like this is your war too.
I think that this is her expertly getting away with the fact that she has no idea what to do. This is her sounding intelligent, being kind of sultry, walking away like she owns the room, but she has no clue what she's talking about, and she knows it. And this is just to cover that up. Yeah.
Maybe she's got like a hair appointment she needs to get to or something.
Well, we saw what happened. She tried to do it herself, so yeah, I mean, she needs an appointment.
I can relate.
We've seen you on episodes, Tara. We know.
Yeah, I know. There are days that I put zero effort into it.
See, when you just accept it, I was hoping you'd fight back or something. When you just accept it, it just feels sadder. I feel like I'm punching down. I just feel bad.
It's all right. I mean, there are days that I purposely go on here with no makeup on too, just so I can prove that I don't need it. Just, I mean, like, no, don't need it to be attractive. I mean, like, prove that it's not important to me. That's all. Making a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh darn it.
Yes, I too often don't wear makeup on
Sometimes you can look a little shiny though. You should probably get some powder.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very good. Very good. So Sheridan goes to Kosh because he realizes that someone mentions that Kosh has not been seen in like a week or multiple weeks,
which is a total lie. We haven't seen him in like a year.
That's not been that long.
He's been gone for a while.
It's a while, but it's not like an irregular amount of time for Kosh to be gone though. This
is like a Talia level of disappearance.
Yeah, exactly. It's not out of the irregular, it's not, this is normal enough. Kosh has always been like here for an episode or two and then gone for ages. Like that's been his routine throughout. Yeah.
It's just when they said no one's seen him for a week.
No, I can't believe your reaction to that line was to like pick it apart and say that's not true, when that line is the most honest they have ever been about how Kosh feels in terms of his presence on this station, is that he disappears for periods of time.
Yeah.
And your problem is that the week is too short, that they should be saying months.
When they said no one's seen Kosh for a week, I went, a week?
My counter to that is that just because we've not seen him doesn't mean he's not. But I mean, because there's time jumps between episodes, you know. These 22 episodes take place over a year.
It was just it was just my natural reaction. Like, okay, I've been waiting to see Kosh for a lot longer than that.
So he goes to Kosh, and he demands. I'm getting head shakes as I start my next point.
My head shake was, I was head shaking at your head shake.
Sometimes you say the opposite thing as to what I think you're going to say, and it throws me, and I don't understand why you're saying the opposite thing.
Okay. I wanted more Kosh, and what did they do to me?
And sometimes I get it. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I realize why I was misthinking this or whatever. But there's examples like this where I'm just baffled.
You're welcome.
I'm just baffled. So he goes to Kosh and says, look, let's show the others that we can win this. You've got the ships. The Vorlons have got the ships. That you can take out a shadow ship or two. Not a lot. You have to win a whole war, but just, you know, you can do it. And Kosh is like, no, it's not happening. And Sheridan gets angry. Sheridan tries to pick a fight. He makes Kosh like hit him. Basically, you know, he ends up with a scar on his cheek.
He's basically like, what the hell are you doing here if you're not going to help us win this thing?
Yeah, he really gets in his face. He, you know, and what's so funny about this is that like the scene feels like a big deal in the moment, because for Sheridan to finally kind of like enough of this talking like Kosh, right? And if that was the line that made him think of him earlier, actually, is that all of a sudden
Dylan was sort of talking like him. Everyone's
starting to sound like Kosh on this station. So the idea that he's like saying, no, enough of this bullshit, enough of this pretending to be an angel or whatever it is you have been doing. No, you need to actually do something now, because otherwise, screw you, like you're no help. So it was an interesting scene just from the perspective of Sheridan being willing to snap like that and like really sort of try to push his buttons, which worked. And we have the ominous line from Kosh where he says, well, because I'm doing this now, I won't be there to help you when you go to Khazad-dûm. And Sheridan like angrily accepts that, and it's like a whole thing. But when we get context later, when we find out later that the reason why he is so resistant to this is because he's scared, because he knows this means that he's probably going to die, and that's why he's pushing this off. It actually gave like the whole scene this, like, in hindsight, a really fascinating quality, because we've never like been able to get a sense, because of how Kosh is portrayed, because he speaks so ominously, because he's always behind this suit, and we never really see a face. We don't really get to see how he feels or get a grasp of how he feels. But the idea that is actually articulated, I mean, I loved it when I sort of started to think it as it was unveiling what was going on with Morden and all that in the shadows. But Sheridan does eventually, you know, he sits down and says, no, he was scared. That's what this was. He was scared of dying, and he was trying to avoid it. And I had to push him in. And it's like, it was the right thing to do. And Kosh even, you know, in a way, we'll get to how in a minute, but Kosh even sort of tells him that this was the right thing to do. We had to make this move to get the ball rolling and for the war to like have a chance. But so don't feel guilty. But Sheridan, I think, in hindsight, will feel a bit guilty that he pushed them into this, and Kosh knew it was going to lead to his own death, and that's why he won't be there to help later down the line.
Yeah.
This was all really fascinating, interesting stuff, and this is before we even get to the actual build up to the death scene and whatnot, which I thought was really good too.
Yeah, I like that as well. Yeah, I think the reveal that he was afraid, also the reveal of Kosh admitting that he is not giving up enough reins to to and trust to Sheridan. Like he's been trying to, you know, play all the pieces and stuff from behind and be, you know, in the shadows himself in a way, and like just like things will go exactly as I've planned them, and who cares about the life, like the lives that are lost now? All that matters is the bigger picture. But now he's like admitting to him, like, no, actually, I need to let you fight, and I need to let you have control, have the reins, and step away from this.
Yeah, it's kind of like we can't necessarily, like, yes, we have to be strategic and all that, but we can't just win it like they're trying to win it, otherwise we're no better. And, you know, there's kind of a heart to that. What I loved about this is that, so, you know, Morden hears that this is happening, that, like, the Vorlons do show up and start attacking some shadow ships, do destroy a couple of them. Big fancy scene, really cool stuff. And Morden hears it though, and you get this sort of intimidation, and you have Morden going to see Kosh, and I believe the only time you've seen them interact was that one time, back in season 1. What do you want? Yeah.
The episode that we know so well.
Which is not what he said to Kosh though, because he hid from Kosh.
Yeah.
Right?
They saw each other in the hallway.
No, they did, but the point I'm making though is that their interaction was very different to the other ambassadors.
He said they are not for you, right? I think that was the only line they had. Yeah,
that's what Kosh said to Morden, yeah. So he goes to see Kosh, so it feels like a big deal because we've not seen them interact since that. But as soon as he gets in, there's a couple of lines, and then, you know, the shadows appear, and it's like, shit, Kosh is like... And then we cut to Sheridan, and he's, you know, and he's somber. And actually, what I really liked about the setup of this as well is that Sheridan mentioned that he wanted to go and talk to Kosh, you know, about the good news, about how this is successful. It's convinced some of the others, the other races, to kind of band together. A lot of people on the station are going to sign this like agreement to like be a part of the same force. And he mentions this saying from his grandfather about how good news can wait, but bad news refuses to leave. And I thought it was really interesting, as he's finishing that saying, it cuts to Morden walking towards Kosh. The bad news is going now, and he'll never get a chance to give him the good news. You know, there was kind of a nice little like that was the moment I think I started to think, oh, this might actually be leading to a big dramatic moment, and if not the death. And so,
right.
What I dug about all this though is that they established before, and not too long ago with Jakar, that Kosh will appear as someone that is recognizable to the person in their dreams or in their vision. So Sheridan sees his father, and his father, who we've met and seen, so
Clint Howard's dad.
Oh, sure, yeah. But the good thing about this, though, is that it wasn't just like some face out of nowhere. You know, we'd heard stories about his dad, but we'd seen his dad because we'd seen that call that he had not too long ago. And I think that made this more impactful than it would have been had it just been, oh, a new actor we've not seen before. That's Sheridan's dad, I guess. But instead, no, it's like this guy we've seen before. And I love that there's no confusion. Like, you know, when sorry, I almost said Sinclair. When Sheridan wakes up, he knows this was Kosh. He understands this was Kosh. But in the dream itself, he's a little, you know, he's still just talking to him as if it's his father. But he says, look, I've been alive so long, you know, I got kind of used to it. You know, without saying the words "I was scared," he's saying "I was scared," and I thought all of this was, it was so well executed, because so much of it was stuff that worked because everything had been pre-established. How Kosh communicates with people, the fact that he was reaching out and doing this as he was literally being murdered at the same time was really emotional, I thought, and really kind of epic. And
that he felt the need to reach out to him so that Sheridan wouldn't have the weight and the guilt of not going to Kosh before, and or like you said, of knowing that this would lead to his death. So it is a very much you know, it's okay, I've accepted that this is my fate, since it, you know, Kosh sees time differently, I guess, so he's able to accept that, you know, doing this would mean him dying. So instead of like saying don't blame yourself, it's very much like it's my responsibility. I made this decision.
Yeah, and you know, it remains to be seen, of course, if he's right, if Sheridan will die in the final fight, whenever that may come. But I mean, at least as of right now, like, this added a lot of like drama to the war effort, and some simple little things like them having like Kosh's like sort of like burned helmet like sitting on the table as they're having a conversation was just such an interesting visual to have after all this time.
Kosh has always sort of felt like a security blanket in a way, and now that's gone. Like, because he's has this different way of seeing things, and he speaks prophetically, like there is a big overall plan, and now that voice is gone. That reassuring, like, this is what we're going to do. Like they've lost a leader. Like, I know he's like, we were just talking about how he's never in the episodes, like he takes long breaks and stuff, but when he does show up, it's like, okay, like he talks like a wizard or something, or
I mean,
in riddles, like he knows what things are going to happen. His
presence was always felt, and even the fact that he appeared to people as either angels or the equivalent of an angel in their own, you know, mythology.
Yeah,
even that is like a helping hand. It's a guidance of sorts, right? So this is the training wheels are now off, and now our generation of like species are all going to have to like do this on their own.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big deal.
This is the this is when the Fellowship has lost Gandalf, and now they're all lost.
See if Kosh somehow appears in some other form.
Kosh the White
later, and you make some Gandalf the White nonsense reference, I'm going to be so pissed off.
He will be Kosh of many colors.
So it's funny because I feel like this episode bizarrely like didn't focus on this plotline as much in the first half of the episode. It feels like most of the important stuff here was in the back half, because the other plot lines took more center stage in the first half. But this, I think, is the biggest deal out of them. I mean, they're all, I think so too, yeah. They're all big deals in some way or another, but this is the biggest deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was super exciting. It was a big death, and Kosh has been an important character, and this is one of these things as well where sometimes in this show we've had to deal with characters dying or leaving because of other factors, because actors, you know, couldn't keep the role or wanted off the show, or, you know, whatever it may have been. And I think what's interesting about this compared to some of these other bigger characters, you know, I'm thinking Tally, I'm thinking Sinclair, is that this one is absolutely not for that reason or any.
Yeah, this one's planned.
This one is purely because the story needs it now, and that's kind of exciting. It's actually kind of impressive how good this show is, given some of the situations that the creators have had to juggle with, you know,
sure.
Since its inception. So this felt like a big deal because of that. So it's not the only death we get in this episode. Actually, we'll get to Adira in a second.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So. Cool stuff. I'm super jazzed about this kind of almost passing of a torch, as it were, to Sheridan from Kosh, and you know, but you know, it makes me wonder. Like, we have these other Vorlons who are clearly there. I assume they're going to like be there to, like, as backup at some point when the chips are down. There'll be some Vorlons who are around still to come and help the fight, maybe. The idea that even Kosh's ship is like, because we know it was alive in some way, but the idea that it's now going to mourn and will probably just fly into a sun because it can't live without Kosh is really sad.
I know. I imagine that would happen if I died, and, you know, my pets, my cat and my dog are by themselves. They would both Thelma and Louise off a cliff or something.
It's like a pet. It really is. It feels like a dog running.
Yeah. Speaking of, she just showed up.
So, you know, there's this fun little, you know, mythology bits and pieces like that are cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Londo's plot, which does tie into Morden as well, which is why it's a neat one to flip over to. And the manipulation of Londo by Morden is master class in this episode. It's, you know, if I have a critique, is that I get why it's there, especially when it was airing and it was, you know, a week apart and there was big gaps between seasons. But I don't necessarily know if I want to have all the little like flashback clips of old episodes.
You know, those scenes did not sound or look familiar to me. I don't remember those lines. I mean, I've watched the episode twice. because I watched the show or that episode before we started reviewing it, and I don't know, like nothing about those lines of dialogue seemed familiar to me. But they couldn't have gotten the same actress, because then they would have shown her, and they don't.
Precisely.
What?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure they were in the episode.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible there are like extended scenes that weren't, in the actual, but they sounded pretty familiar to me. The one with Rifa was, because that was this season. That was definitely the exact scene that was in that episode.
Oh yeah. I'm talking about the stuff with Adira.
Yeah. No, I figured, but I'm pointing that one out specifically. You gotta be clear, or people correct you.
I mean, I would like to know if they were like just footage that was shot but not used in that episode, cut in the episode. They just had extra, or
it's possible they did. The Marlon Brando'd some extra stuff. For Superman Returns. This is possible. So anyway, Londo's excited because Adira is coming back to the station. And this is Joe, is funny. I think back in season 1 when we had that episode, right? It was because it was like episode 3 or 4. It was like really early.
It's really early, yeah.
And I remember at the time thinking it was a nice episode, and it was nice to see like Londo in this situation and whatnot. But it also had that kind of air of being like, oh, this is like, we're going to get tons of stories like this with Londo and other characters because it's a TV show. But to the show's credit, that was an outlier. That we've not had a plot like that for Londo since. So when they brought
We've
her up,
had his wives involved, but that's all.
But that's very different though. That was a different thing altogether. So when they brought her up in this episode, when they brought up her name and that she was coming back, it actually felt like a big, even though at the time it felt like, she's just a guest star for an episode and this is not actually that important in the grand scheme of things. Something this show does a lot with bringing things back up, but even just bringing her up and showing Londo being excited about it, and him having this spark and a spring in his step was like, oh, this actually means something right now, that because this has changed his mood, because he's been in such a very specific kind of dour mood recently, because he's been dealing with Rifa, he's been, everyone hates him.
Yeah,
now.
but he's talked to Morden, and Morden has been like saying like, hey, you did something to Rifa and now we're not getting our way anymore, and he's like, good, things are going my way then, like we don't want anything to do with you guys, and we're out, and we're not going to fall with you, basically. Yeah,
that happens. I mean, that's kind of.
So he is feeling a bit like there's a bit of a victory going on for him.
Yeah, I mean he's already got that before that scene, but yeah, then he sort of like, I don't know, swings it about, I suppose, if you want to call it that, with Morden. And of course, when you get to the end of that scene, you're like, okay, what's Morden going to do? Because I think actually it's even the same scene where the shadows sort of appear, and he's like, no, we can't kill him. We need him for something. But don't worry. There's other ways. And it's like, okay, Londo really cares about someone who's coming to the station. I wonder what might happen to her. Now that Morden's sniffing about.
Yeah, but I didn't expect the Rifa turn. The little switcheroo with saying that it was Rifa that did it.
No, I thought it was quite smart, because I think it made sense, because he threatened Rifa with poison, the fact that she was poisoned. Making Londo think it was Rifa when we know it's not. I mean, I never thought it was anyway, but we clearly see Morden paying off the guy from the ship, so we know for a fact that it wasn't. So when Morden comes in afterwards and she's dead and Londo's like, miserable about it, and this is like proper turned on dark side, right? This is probably the most like just outright villainous Londo has ever sounded in this show. This is
starting to seem like, okay, maybe we don't get a redemption. Maybe it is just a straight up tragedy for
it might be
for Londo now.
Because he just says, look, I will see the Centauri, continue doing what you want them to. 2 conditions: my people are safe, so you don't go after Centauri, because that's one thing that Londo was concerned about, and 2, you help me get revenge. Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
And we know he's in line to become emperor.
Yeah. So I think obviously, like, this is a big motivation, and obviously you can tell he's hurting and he wants to lash out. I mean, hell, even the idea that he always dreamed about, like, getting back to, getting back at the Narn for like rejecting them after some amount of time, is like, a petty revenge thing. But this is like a personal thing where he really cared about this person, he really loved her, and now he wants revenge. So it's really personal now. This is a really personal thing. It's just like, I'm not even just doing this because I want to see Centauri back on top. I'm doing this just for me, for something I personally want.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the Centauri government anymore. Like, they can all die.
And he's even like, I don't care what you do to the rest of the universe. They can all burn as long as I get my revenge.
Mm-hmm.
You know. And Morden, the sly prick's like, I'm always at your service, Ambassador. It's the way he says Ambassador. It's like, oh, we're back to old Morden and Londo, like, because Morden's like saying Ambassador with respect now again. Yeah. So, neat touch.
I couldn't help but think a little bit when he was paying the guy with the crystals. Mm-hmm. Like, I wonder is that just like a bunch of like images of like dirty images that he's paying? Because crystals are very different things in this show.
Well, yeah, but the crystals that are used as USB sticks are always the same size and shape, I think.
I know. It was just a joke. It's just a bunch of dirty porn.
Damn, things are really dark in the future if, like, you have to commit, like, assassinations to get your porn. If that's the only way you can get your hands on dirty material.
Well, this is stuff from the Outer Rim.
Well, I bet there's some Outer Rimming going on.
Ew. Edit that out.
I'm sorry, but
cross the line.
Look, I'm tired, right?
Yeah.
That was all your fault, right? You put us onto the subject.
I should have known better who I was talking to.
Shut up! I'm tired. So the low-hanging fruit is the fruit that shall be plucked, okay?
All right.
So, yes, all of this Morton stuff was really devious. He felt super menacing this episode. It felt like he was juggling a couple of different things because he was going after Adira, whilst also, of course, like eventually going after Kosh and being involved in that side of things. So it was almost like, okay, it's almost just nice and convenient that he's there in the station. And the idea that Kosh at any time, had he like got the Vorlons to do something, it would have resulted in this. Like, they would have come for him, and he always knew that. So there's a lot of... You feel like a living world that has all these gears turning constantly. It feels alive. The planets are alive with the sound of screaming and terror and misery. It's not happy. It's not music, Tara. It's not happy show.
It's music to someone.
Okay, sure. The shadows are like, it's like a symphony for them. They're just like la 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 la.
I mean, Sheridan even says, like, we don't really know what they want, what their goal is here. They just sort of want to cause chaos.
Well, I don't think it's that, though. I mean, obviously they want chaos so that they can do what they want without anyone noticing or without anyone having the strength to, like, fight them. I do think there is a defined goal that they have. I don't think they're a bunch of jokers. I think there is a set purpose, an end point for whatever they're doing. I don't know what
they don't know. No one knows what it is.
No, I agree. No one does know what it is. But it doesn't feel like just anarchy to me. It feels like anarchy's been used as a tool in the same way that, you know, that's what they're using the Centauri for, basically, is to create a lot of ruckus so that no one's paying enough attention or can focus on them. So it's all strategy. It's far too strategic to just be anarchy, I think. There's a plan.
Well, we got one plot left.
Yes. Tara wants to move on, apparently.
You're the one who needs to get some sleep. I'm
being rushed into the other plot. What's funny, actually, is that being this tired and being awake for, 21 hours at this point, or something stupid like that, is that I probably feel like Franklin does, hopped up on his stims.
You got some empty cans of Monster around you and Red Bull.
You know, him yelling, and I actually noticed he said the wrong number, or not so much that it was wrong, but I noticed when he changed
kept saying it over and over, yeah.
It's when he changed it, I noticed he said it, and he's like, no, I said 13, damn it. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he said 9. I'm pretty sure he said 9 decimeters, or whatever the thing was you were talking about.
Something about lungs.
Yeah, something about lungs. And we have this like secondary doctor who's kind of a supporting character in this episode, so there's someone to kind of react and challenge him and for Garibaldi to go to. And this all worked quite well because obviously we had the episode that really set up that he had a problem. We were reminded recently that he is still taking stims. And then this episode we sort of see, because they're all on edge, they're all working overtime, he is now at this...
There's a war going on,
Yeah, he's at this bubbling point where he is losing his temper, he is making mistakes. And Garibaldi tries to calm it on it one more time. And says, look, I'm going to have to actually like take this up the chain at a certain point, right? And I'm giving you a chance to sort of like deal with this privately so it doesn't ruin your life.
Yeah.
You know, Garibaldi every turn, and even after this, he tries to do it sneakily so that he doesn't have to get fired.
Yeah,
and,
he
like,
goes to the other doctor, and she basically says, sorry, you're going to need to have a search warrant.
Yeah.
You have to make it official if you want to look through this stuff, because I'm not going to go break the rules.
Yeah, but of course the big reveal is that when he tries to break the rules, he stops at the last second. Franklin walks in and says, why didn't you do it? And reveals that when he realized what Garibaldi was doing, he actually checked his own readings himself. And basically, you know, he talks about how as a doctor he has to accept the numbers, and if he's over a certain number in his blood or whatever, that means he's addicted. It means he's got a problem, and he can't deny it now. Which I actually kind of like. I kind of like the idea that he's purposely not looked, because he does trust science. So if the numbers just outright say something about him, he can't deny it because it's who he is.
I mean, he said he was going to run the numbers just so he can prove to Garibaldi that it wasn't as bad as he was saying. Like, sure, yeah, he has a problem with stims, but it's not to the point where he can't do his job. Like, it's just the stress or whatever, not the stims. But then he saw the numbers and he's like, oh shit,
yeah,
it's a lot more than I thought.
I think he was putting off looking, because they mentioned that they're constantly having their vitals taken, or you know, because they mentioned that all the medical staff are all, because that's why there's a record. Garibaldi's got something to look up, so these readings have existed, right? You know, Franklin could at any point, at any time on the station, could have looked at what his readings were, and he didn't. He was, you know, so for a long time he has been purposely not looking, and I think that's kind of because he knows that once it says in black and white that he is addicted, that he does have a problem, he has to accept that and do something about it, and that fear's there. And he confesses to Sheridan and tells him he resigns and says he has to, like, you know, figure things out, and
and there's no talking him into keeping his job. It's just, nope, gotta do this. I am unsafe to other people here.
How's he going to lure people back to his quarters?
I mean, does he say he's leaving the station?
No. I'm sure he's still going to be on the station, but I mean, he's not a doctor anymore, technically. Or he's not an active doctor, I should say. He's not a doctor.
I don't know. He could still be a doctor for the Brown Zone. Like, does he still have that secret booth?
Speaking out of rims.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said doctor for the Brown Zone, it immediately made me think that sounds like a really specialized area.
They're called proctologists.
Well, they should call them doctors of Brown Zones from now on, because I think it sounds funner.
Sure.
Your mic has turned. You're not speaking into the mic anymore.
People already have a fear of getting colonoscopies. They don't need to have. Need to have any more. Doctor of the Brown Zone.
Where are you going today? I'm going to the Brown Zone, doctor.
Actually, it does sound kind of fun.
Oh well. I mean, honestly, I don't have a whole lot to say about this, other than I think the performances are pretty strong, and that it pays off something that was set up quite a number of episodes ago. Last season, even, actually, to start with, maybe it was the start of this season. I can't remember when they first brought it up, but it was a while ago. And yeah, like episodes like this are again just another example of, like, everything feels like nothing in this works standalone, and I'm saying that as a good thing. I'm saying everything in this feels like it is payoff and culmination and or developments in, like, recontextualizing of stuff that is already moving forward. And yeah, you feel, I think you feel a bit rewarded for a lot of that happening when it does. Like I say, something like Adira, where, like, felt like a relatively throwaway character, because it was like, yeah, one episode, love interest, whatever, But all of a sudden, like when I rewatch Babylon 5 after having seen this episode now, I'm going to think about that episode a little bit differently because, this really is the only person that he's really connected with, and the one of the few times he seemed happy in an episode is with her. And it's almost like maybe if he sees her again, maybe he'll kind of become season 1 Londo again. Maybe he'll remember to love again.
I mean, he's lost all his friends.
Yeah.
So just have somebody else.
But it's taken...
I thought maybe they were going to do like the episode where she's only there because he's now a powerful man, and like she doesn't love him like anymore, but she likes having the I don't know, like everything that you thought you had that was special is actually all just surface level. They're just trying to be close to you because you're powerful.
Yeah, but no, what I was saying though is like to get back to the tragedy of it is like I almost feel like maybe he'll find his way back to being who he was before, and we'll see some of that Londo again. But it was taken from him. Like, the Mordrin and the Shadows took it from him and forced him, manipulated him again into going further down the darker path. And he's already been down a pretty far end of that dark path as it is. But now he's like jumping in, like, Yeah,
I mean, he knows they're evil. He knows that the Shadows and Mordin are evil.
Yeah, now he doesn't care.
Now he doesn't care.
Yeah, what shred of humanity, for lack of a better word, because he's not human, is gone. Because, and it's actually a little scene, but I loved it, is Veer telling Mordin to piss off, saying that he wished he was dead, and just leaving all cheery. I thought that was delightful.
Veer has been a very consistent character throughout the entirety of the show.
Yep, I can't wait for his reign as Emperor, quite frankly. Should be delightful. I wonder if that means all the Centauri ships, assuming it happens. I mean, it probably won't happen till after the war, but like, I love the idea that all Centauri ships all of a sudden have to start fighting the Shadows because Veer's in charge. He's like, no, I'm joining this alliance. Everyone, attack the Shadows.
I mean, they don't realize it, but they are, being oppressed by the Shadows.
Yeah,
they're no longer the oppressors.
Yeah, they just don't realize it, and that's a theme in and of itself, is the idea of the invisible oppressor. And how many things can you
capitalism?
How many things can you talk about in the modern world that you could sort of describe as an invisible oppressor?
The World Bank.
Good episode, lots of exciting stuff happening. The Kosh death was a bit of a shock. Not in the sense it was a shock in the moment, because it actually, once it started building to it, it felt like it was building to a death, which was good, because it gave me that churn in my stomach. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I think some pretty standout scenes in this, especially the fight between Sheridan and Kosh, and, Londo's turn to Shakespearean tragedy, and even the scene with Franklin in the med ward, where it was, I mean, that was a really intense scene. It was really well shot.
Yeah. So really solid stuff. But we have part 1 of a 2-parter next time, though, so I'm excited to see. And typically, because both, I think season 1 and 2 both had 1 2-parter each, if I'm remembering right, and they were both really, really big deals in those seasons. So I am excited to see what lies ahead for us next time. But by all means, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. You can ding the bell for notifications, all those things do help out YouTube channel, so please do hit the buttons. Tara, put me out my misery and promote the Patreon.
Okay, but please don't interrupt me.
I ended it in a way that you couldn't say your phrase anyway.
That's right, Peter.
Well, it went out.
God damn it. I make one request. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MildFuzzTV. And if you donate as low as $1 per month, you'll get bonus episodes for other shows we do. And if you donate $5 per month, you will get access to these reviews 6 days early. So head on over and check that out. Thank you very much.
Oh. I guess it's time to end the show.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. I'm going to go pass out. I'm going to go and have my own dreams of Kosh coming to talk to me. But thank you. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.